हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम करेंगे सीन 10, 11, 12 एंड 13। लेट अस स्टार्ट विद द सीन नंबर 10। ये तुगलक प्ले है और इट इज़ रिटन बाय गिरीश कर्नाड। लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ। द स्टेप मदर एडमिट्स हैविंग murdered Nazib is sentenced to be stoned to death. This highly dramatic scene takes place between the Sultan and his stepmother, with Barani coming in at the end. The scene shows how the move for a new copper currency has misfired. Now, what is the meaning of misfired? Misfired means failed, go wrong, with people having taken to minting copper coin on a large scale. When the stepmother draws his attention to the cartloads of copper coins outside the palace, he expresses his helplessness, saying that they will not go to the treasury but will be heaped up in the new rose garden. This use of the new rose garden will mean the death of one of his dreams. His chief worry now is to find out who murdered Nazib. It is an intimate scene in which both the Sultan and the stepmother uncover their secret selves to each other. At first, she tries to worm out whatever information he has about the murderer and adds that it was a good riddance. Riddance means get rid, chutkara pana. For in her view, he was leading the Sultan astray. Later, she confesses that it was she who had killed him, saying that it was easier than killing one's father and brother, and it was better than killing Sheikh Imamuddin. She then explains that she killed Nazib because it was he who was driving him means Sultan, to murders. तो वो बोलती है, look at your kingdom now, it's become a kitchen of death, all because of him. वो blame करती है किसको, जिसको उसने मर्डर किया होता है, नाजिब को. The Sultan of course cannot believe her and explodes into admitting that he had killed them but had done so for an idol. किस चीज़ के लिए? अपने असूलों के लिए, अपनी जो ख्वाब देखे थे उनके लिए उसने उनको मारा था. किनको? अपने फादर और ब्रदर को. सुल्तान ये एडमिट करता है, बोलता है. But he also confesses to have suffered for those killings. Lately, Nazib too had been telling him to hold back his sword, but he has not been able to do so. After the killing of Shihab, he seems to have realized that no words but the sword, that is all I have to keep my faith in my mission. His killings, he says, had a purpose. They gave him what he wanted: power, strength to shape my thoughts, strength to act. But her killing has not only been futile, but it has led to his astounding discovery that she also wanted power to control him. He says he had only 3 friends in the world: Nazib, Barani and stepmother. Now he feels betrayed by her. I love you more than I have, वो बोलता है, I love you more than I have loved anyone in my life. In his uncontrollable fury, he sentences her to death by stoning, a punishment awarded to adulteress. Adulteress का मतलब होता है, adulteress का मतलब होता है lady of low virtue. Okay, now this is a scene of great power because it lays bare the tortured soul of Muhammad bin Tuglak in all its complexity, its sense of mission, its hunger for power, and his growing need to resort to violence. The scene also highlights the essential loneliness, anguish, pain of a man of power whose hands are red with blood, and his need for a power greater than his own. That is why he falls down on his knees, makes a confession, and prays to God for mercy. Barani's entry brings to the Sultan's mind that by praying he is violating means rules को ना मानना, break करना, his own injunctions, own rules not to pray. But Barani gives him what he considers to be the joyful news that Ghiyasuddin, a descendant of the Abbasid Caliph, is reaching there within the coming months. Okay, but Barani gives him what he considers to be joyful news that Ghiyasuddin, a descendant of the Abbasid caliphs, is reaching there within the coming months. But the Sultan is not cheered by the news and is torn apart by his guilt. मतलब उसको बहुत दुख हो रहा है. ओके, नाउ एक्सरसाइज या क्वेश्चंस इसके हम पढ़ लेते हैं. 5 क्वेश्चंस हैं इसमें. कैन यू पिक अप एनी लाइन्स दैट शो सम ट्रेस ऑफ पोइट्री इन द सुल्तान? व्हाई लेसन डज द सुल्तान लर्न फ्रॉम किलिंग Shihabuddin? Why did the Sultan want power? Why does the Sultan consider his stepmother to be worse than an adulteress? Note the prayer motive again. Why does he say he was trying to pray but the words left no echo in the heart? Announcement आती है अब एक. The public announcement describes Ghiyasuddin Abbasid as a savior, बचाने वाला, फरिश्ता, and signals the restarting of prayer. The desperation behind the need for the blessing of a descendant of a caliph is clear. But of course, the hope is stillborn. Stillborn means unsuccessful. Scene 11 हम करेंगे अब. The impostor Aziz. Impostor means aspirant. The impostor Aziz is recognized during the ceremonial welcome of the descendant of the caliph. The starving crowd breaks into a riot. The scene is set on a plain outside the fort of Daulatabad. It is a crowd scene in which we see the people asking for food and not prayer. They have no use of prayers. The discontent, unsatisfied, shows no sign of abating. Abating means stopping. Okay, कहाँ थी मैं? Okay, abating, and leads to food rioting at the end. The Sultan stares at Aziz, and it seems that he doesn't quite recognize him. But whatever be his private thought, he goes through the motions of receiving the descendant of the caliph. His last sentence shows his hopeless hope. Only you can save me now, your holiness. The dust of your feet on my head can save me now. ये बोल रहा है सुल्तान खलीफ को, डिसेंडेंट ऑफ खलीफ को. अब डिसेंडेंट ऑफ खलीफ भी कौन है? अजीज बन के आया है. While the Sultan fails to recognize Aziz, the Hindu woman of scene 7 does, and shouts, but as always, no one pays much heed to her. Incidentally, Aziz is a totally imagined character. Ironically, while his fortune is rising, that of the Sultan is on the decline. Now we are on scene 12. Azam, the more timid of the two impostors, develops cold feet and wants to run away from the city of starving people. The scene is the palace. Azam, who is supposed to be the disciple of Ghiyasuddin, wants to run away to safety and has actually ordered 2 horses to be brought. He has been to the city and gives a harrowing report of the week-long food riot in the city. Violence, heaps of corpses, burning houses. Aziz is still unconvinced and wants to stay on to enjoy the taste of power. Azam also draws a graphic picture of the Sultan digging his fists into the heap of counterfeit coins and letting them trickle out from his raised fists. Finally, Azam goes out himself. Scene 13. Barani seeks the Sultan's permission to leave on the pretext of attending his mother's funeral. Pretext होता है आपका excuse लेना. He sees through Aziz's fraud and forgives him and speaks of his plan to go back to Delhi. The scene is set in another part of the palace. It opens with the Sultan in conversation with Barani. Later, Aziz is brought in. The gentle Barani seeks the Sultan's permission to go away to attend his mother's funeral. She has been a victim of the riots, though he has not said anything about it to the Sultan. When the Sultan asks him if he will come back, he keeps quiet. His reluctance to return is clear. Barani's departure will leave him without sound advice or a restraining hand. Azam, uh, Azam's death is reported. When Aziz is called, he frankly owns up to what he is, a dhobi from Shikna. He tells to his career of crime, saying that he has been the Sultan's true disciple, a dhobi disguised as a Brahmin, officer on the way to Daulatabad, maker of counterfeit currency, farmer in Doab, robber in the hills, and finally a descendant of the Abbasid Caliph. As a state servant who handled corpses of important people, he says that he had a revelation once. क्या revelation था? One day suddenly I had a revelation. This was all human life was worth, I said. This was the real meaning of the mystery of death, straw and skin. Now, Muhammad is particularly struck by his reply about the revelation that he has had about the mystery of death in his new mood of resignation of a man who finds himself driven into corner. Sweep your logic away into a corner. Barani, all I need now is myself and my madness. Madness to prance in a field eaten bare by the scarecrow violence. I have a companion to share my madness now, the omnipotent God. So, while the otherwise soft Barani calls for the direst punishment for Aziz, the king forgives him. बरानी को लगता है ना कि इसको अजीज़ को सज़ा मिलनी चाहिए, लेकिन किंग उसको माफ़ कर देता है. The Sultan also tells Barani of his plan to return to Delhi. The play closes on a beautiful somber note. Sultan is tired and wants to sleep. He asks Barani to pray for him before he goes. Soon he falls asleep. An attendant comes and wraps a shawl around him. Just then, the muezzin call for prayer is heard. मतलब जो प्रेयर के लिए आवाज़ लगाई जाती है ना, वो सुनाई देती है. The attendant stops but decides not to wake him up. After the muezzin's call fades away, जब मतलब ये आवाज़ थोड़ी धीमी पड़ जाती है, the Sultan suddenly opens his eyes and looks around dazed. It is as if his unconscious had nudged him awake at prayer time. Means pushed him awake. जैसे कि prayer time पे वो उठ गया, मतलब बीच में ना. There was a time when he didn't have time to sleep. Now he's so dead tired that he goes to sleep just before prayer time. It is touching to see a thoughtful servant preferring to let the Sultan sleep even when it is near prayer time. The suggestion is that natural needs are far more important than political necessity. इसके कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं, उनको मैं पढ़ लेती हूँ. These are 5 questions. Why does the Sultan want to restart public prayers? The Sultan uses the chess metaphor in the scene. Can you spot where? What is your final impression of the Sultan? Why doesn't Barani wants to come back? In what sense are the Sultan and Aziz alike. थैंक यू सो मच. यहाँ हमने अपना प्ले फिनिश कर दिया. प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल. थैंक यू सो मच.